Thank y'all so much. Can you hear me or do I need microphone? I don't know where the Matthew Bradford. I feel like I'm important now or something. And Congressman, God bless you. I know, you know, on the financial committee there, you work with a couple of teachers, so not politics on that one. You know, it's truly an honor to be here. I love going around and sharing my story because you look at me now, you see the no legs, and I can't see you, so hopefully don't fall asleep while I share my story. But, you know, it's one bad day at that moment turned out to be the best day of my life. And, you know, I'll share with you in a minute on, you know, what that day and what it ultimately led to. But, you know, Ronald Reagan said one of the quotes, and it's, you know, we can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone. And as we all walk through this life, and as we're all here today, there's always one person in our life that we can help, you know, and it's just focusing on your own circle to go out and help others, you know, help veterans, help those struggling. Because no matter what, we all have those bad days, and we all have those difficult days where we all struggle, you know, but we need each other, you know, and it all starts with one. So like my introduction said, I remember watching those terrorist attacks in Kentucky, and watching the innocent Americans leap for their lives out of the Twin Towers. And you know, that image still today is imprinted in my head, and it will never go away. And I realized then as a freshman in high school that serving this country is my purpose. It's what I want to do. I want to fight to make sure let those insurgents, those terrorists never do this again on American soil. My family and friends were here. And you know, I made it a part for the next 3 years to focus on joining the military. I didn't have any, you know, my mind wasn't set on joining the Marines. At first, it was the Army, because I loved Black Hawk Down. And I remember one scene of Black Hawk Down, but at the end of it was, you know, who was talking to Everson was like, why do we do this? Like, we'll go back home, people won't understand why we do it, they think we're some war junkies. But it's about the brother to your left and your right. That's why we do it. And I remember that, and I just, man, I want to be a part of that. I want that camaraderie and that connection, that brotherhood. You know, unfortunately, my dad was in the Air Force, so I had to go speak to the Air Force recruiter. And, you know, the funny thing is, the Air Force recruiter was the most cocky out of all of them. I'm like, what cocky about? You're Air Force. But anyway. But then I met the Marine Corps recruiter, and I met the other recruiters, and the pride that they had in wearing that uniform. My recruiter was in the March to Baghdad, and he shared stories with us. And I remember he took a bunch of us, we were pulleys, we hadn't even signed up yet through the late entry program to Hooters. And I realized then that, you know what, the Marines is where I'm going now. The decision was made. So I joined September 6th of 2005, and I wanted to deploy. I wanted to go fight. I didn't want to wait around. I didn't want to miss the war. I wanted to go overseas. And by September of 2006, I was on a plane headed to Kuwait. Within a year, I was going over to Iraq. And you know, I knew the risk. I knew what could happen to me. I raised my right hand to serve and defend this country. I was willing to lay down my life. And you know, you think about giving your life and for freedom, for your brothers, and sacrifice, but you don't think about just giving your legs and your vision. You don't think about the in-between. And that wasn't on my mind. But when I was over there, I was fully committed because I loved what I was doing. I loved those I was with. And you know, I'm not going to lie, Iraq in 2006 wasn't a safe spot, wasn't a fun spot to be. Every time we would go on patrol, we looked to the brother side, left and the right, and we realized which one of us is not coming back. Out of my squad, we took the most engagements from the enemy. But every time we left the FOB with 12 Marines, we came back with 12 Marines. But you know, throughout the first 3 months of our deployment, on average, we had a casualty a day. I think up to the first 60 days, we had a casualty a day. And you know, for that deployment alone, we ended up losing 23 Marines. We had 177 wounded. But the unit that relieved us in 2007 didn't take any casualties. And although we lost a lot of blood on that ground over there, and we lost a lot of good guys, and a lot of guys who are different today, but you know what, we go over there and we did our job as Marines. You know, I remember a couple of stories when I was in Iraq, and you know, you go up, you take over a compound, you go straight to the roof, high ground, you know, get to Superior, you know, you're up top. And then, some of the prettiest sunrises and sunsets I've ever seen in my life was over Iraq. This war-torn country, for hundreds of years, would always provide us with these beautiful paintings every morning and every evening. And I would see them as I'm sitting there on top of that wall, looking up. I realized then that all this evil and all these insurgents, when we walk outside this compound, they're trying to kill us. I learned that, God is looking out for us. No matter where we are in this world, He's painting this picture. Good will always defeat evil. And that just gives you the strength and the courage to, to put one foot in front of the next. To put your gear back on and walk outside that compound wall. And then, another story is over our fob, which was right in the middle of Haditha. We get mortared every day. But there was a post that I'd always stand. And overlooking our COC was the American flag. And I'd always look at that flag, and you think back to, man, these days in Iraq, honestly, they suck. It's horrible over here. We're baby white bass. We got, it's just bad. But it's why do we do this? Why do we serve? And just like Black Hawk Down, it's the brothers to your left and your right. And you think about those images in my head from 9/11, those innocent Americans. And you look at the red on that flag, the sacrifice, the blood that was shed by not only, Echo Company, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines, but every Marine, soldier, sailor, airman who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, who served in Vietnam, who served in Korea, World War II. Why are we free today? It's because there's generations of us. There's less than 1% of us who are willing to raise our right hand to go fight on foreign soil with their brothers they love, to give everything. And that's what it's all about. And, I look at that flag and I look at my squad. We're not your typical, Americans. We had a Marine from Palau, a Marine from Puerto Rico. We had a Marine from the streets of Baltimore, the streets of Atlanta, West Virginia. We were all over this country. But we were united together, and we were stronger than ever. And the deployment is what I wanted to do. And I did it, and I loved every minute. Each engagement, coming back with my brothers, the excitement, the adrenaline, the playing the PSP, PlayStation, when we had downtime. And you get used to being over there and playing those games and going on patrols and being with your brothers. And, honestly, where we were at, there was no social media. We had 3 laptops and it took us 29 minutes to log on for a 30-minute, time on a computer. So that was pointless. We had satellite phones, we could rarely call home. It was just us. It was us, and the only way we could communicate back home was a letter in the mail that we had to write. So we learned to love each other and be there for each other. I talk with my guys a lot today because I realized that, those who didn't receive a Purple Heart, whoever stepped the streets of Haditha, Iraq, in 2006 and 2007, we all left there differently. We all left there wounded, and we all left there hurting and needing each other. But, my story begins on January 18, 2007, a new chance on life. The good Lord gave me a second chance to live. I called my uncle just a few hours before I went on deployment, or before I went on patrol. And I told my uncle, because we're at the point of our deployment, we're getting ready to go home. We got a few months later, we're excited. We're not taking much from the insurgents anymore. It's getting kind of quiet over here. The job we're doing, we're starting to win it. And, I was excited. But I was sitting there talking to my uncle. And even though this in my head that my uncle didn't understand or realize that within 24 hours he would get another phone call saying that I'm coming home quick. I didn't realize in a few hours that I'm going to step in the wrong spot and I'm going to be on a medevac back home. And on a foot patrol, as we were always on, I actually felt safer walking the streets of Iraq than I did in a vehicle. From IEDs and grenades getting thrown at us. When you're on foot, you kind of got a little better control on your surroundings. And as I look out in front of me, as I pass this past this compound wall, I see a white bag lead up against a tree about 30 yards off to my right, up in the area called the palm groves. And over there, a lot of insurgents marked weapons, caches, or IED emplacements with something, very suspicious. And a white bag up against a palm tree, pretty suspicious. So I turn and let everybody know. And the minute I turn back around, I look down. And this ditch that went perpendicular from the road I was standing on went inside the pipe underneath the road. And I saw the command wires going right inside the pipe. And by that time, there was no time to react. It exploded directly underneath me. Sent shrapnel to both my eyes, lost my vision. And I was still conscious through it all. I heard my brothers run to me, put tourniquets on my legs, get me out of that danger zone. And I remember laying there on the compound wall, and one of my best friends was holding my hand. Because as I mentioned, we took more engagements than the other squad, but we always come back with the same amount of Marines. Like, this is the first time that something's ever happened to us. And honestly, they didn't think I'd make it out of there alive. And the last voice I heard as they took me back to the high back was from my senior drill instructor, who was a platoon sergeant in my company. "You'll be fine, Bradford." And then I just fell asleep. And I didn't wake up for 3 weeks later. And when I woke up, I was in another country. My mom and dad, who was divorced, was standing on each side of my bedside, which, my gosh, I'd rather go back to Iraq than that. But I remember waking up and asking, what happened to me? Like, I don't remember any of that stuff. Why can I not see now? The fatal pains in my legs were so strong that I felt like I had my feet. And my dad would always whisper to my doctors behind my back, and he would hug me. I'm like, did I get kidnapped? Am I blindfolded? Like, that was my whole thought. And then my dad told me I lost my legs. And I remember laying there in that hospital bed just crying. I've never cried this much in my life. Hoping one of those tears would grow back a leg or something. Like, I didn't care for losing my vision. I just wanted my legs to grow back. Like, I didn't want to live this life with no legs, no eyesight. And I was only 20 years old. I wasn't even old enough to have a legal drink. And here I am laying in a hospital bed trying to figure out what's next. And you know what I always realized? I realized then that, man, if this idea didn't kill me, I'm going to try to do it to myself. I'm not going to eat. I'm going to starve myself. I'm already so skinny that the hospital wristband would go all the way to my armpit. I just hated life. I hated being there. I hated people who visit my hospital room. And it just wanted to lay there and die. And I think the one thing, I mentioned earlier that I didn't really have a clear-cut choice on which military branch I wanted to join. But I know when I was going through this moment, I made the right decision on being a United States Marine. Because being a United States Marine is what kept me alive. Those Marines that I served with in Iraq, I didn't want to let them down. Those Marines that kept walking in my hospital room, even though I was mean to him, I was cussing him out, I was frustrated, I was the world's worst patient. Those Marines kept coming to my room. Those corpsmen, those nurses, those doctors, every day they reminded me, you know what, you're still a Marine. And that right there made me realize that God's purpose for us, it's so interesting how He places down these detours in life and how things all work out in the end. I had a Marine who lost his leg. He served with me in Iraq, and he would come see me every day, every chance he could. And he started laying down, sharing with me the stories of getting a prosthetic leg, the rehab, the therapy. Because I didn't know what the next step was. I didn't know what the next journey was. And you know what? Him alone sharing these stories with me, and the corpsmen, the nurses, the Marines, all of those people who kept coming to my room reminded me that, you know what, you're still a Marine. You might be a little different. You might not be wearing uniform over in Iraq right now, but you're still a Marine. That motivated me, encouraged me. That gave me that fight. To understand that no matter what obstacle is thrown in my way, because all obstacles get thrown in our way, God doesn't give us a perfect path. He places obstacles to test us, to see how strong we are, see what kind of fight we have in us. You know what? I realized that, that the Marine and everybody who come into my hospital room to help me out, I realized maybe my purpose in life was not to deploy. Maybe this is my purpose in life, to go in hospital rooms, to share my story with other wounded, to let them know that no matter what they deal with each and every day, you can overcome your injuries. it all starts with just being positive. Losing that negative mindset. Thinking that everything is against you. And understanding that, when you wake up every day, you got two choices. You could roll over and hit the alarm, and go back to sleep, or you can get up and make a difference in somebody else's life. And that's the life I wanted to live. And I realized making a difference in that life was outside that hospital bed. Get up, get outside that hospital door, and that's where life would take me. That's the next opportunity. Being a Marine, it's like everything you learned in training, lead by example, having those people who would provide advice and wisdom, you'd learn from them. And you'd use that to get you through life. The adapt and overcome. I'm adapting and I'm overcoming. I'm a new person now. And that never quit mentality. Marines don't ever quit. But I realized, what would get me through these adversities? It's having that mindset. To wake up every day and know that, give me whatever you got, and I'm going to go after it. I'm going to put one foot in front of the next, I'm going to go for it. That positive attitude, that constantly being resilient. Understanding that life is tough, and life will throw so much at you. But you got to learn just, if you fall down, get up and move forward. And if you're going to focus on the next goal, you got to invest. And then ultimately, you never quit. You enjoy every step of life. The mindset, attitude, resiliency, invest, never quit, and enjoy. Marine. That's what I am. And that's what I'll always be. When I got my mind right, I started getting better. I started gaining more weight. They started taking me off pain meds. Next thing you know, I'm moving on to the next hospital, the next journey in my life. And as I got to Richmond, Virginia, a few stories really kind of helped me out so much. People always ask me, what helped change you? And really, no one moment helped change me, but a lot of little moments helped change me. It's those minor steps that ultimately lead to those major steps. So every time I'd leave the hospital room, I'd always put my blanket, like a poncho liner. If you're in the military, you know what a poncho liner is. I'd always cover my lap with it because I thought that poncho liner covered my amputations. Because I didn't want people to see that I had no legs. I was still somewhat embarrassed. But you know what? That poncho liner I use as a security blanket. And every morning I'd get up to go to therapy, I'd put that over my lap, and I'd roll out, and I'd talk to the nurses, I'd go to therapy, and I'd come back to my hospital room. That security blanket helped me get out and be around other people and be comfortable. And I slowly started taking that security blanket off. Because I realized, I'm proud of these legs. This is who I am. I lost these legs for freedom. And I'd go back and do it all over again. And the next step, my doctor would come in my room every day. He would always walk in, sit down, talk with me. But when he did, he'd always close his eyes. He's like, Matt, you can't see me, so I can't see you. They gave me the trust to actually open up to somebody. Because here I am 4 months into my recovery. I only really trust a few people. And you know what? I trusted a few people in Bethesda, but those people aren't in Richmond no more. This doctor took a lot out of his time and his schedule. And for him to close his eyes and speak to me, well, he didn't see my emotions and I couldn't see his emotions. He removed his title and we become friends. The next story, I always like sharing this one because it's so important. Especially today, on how we live life and how we treat others. Because at one time I was so angry that, I would snap at somebody or I would judge somebody and I didn't know anything about that other person. So my speech therapist came in my hospital room the first day to check in and I told her, look, I'm from Kentucky. This is how I talk. I got a severe traumatic brain injury, I know, but I don't need a speech therapist. I'm not going to read a book on the red fox jumping over the brown wall. I'm ready to move on from this. And she kind of giggled and left, and then she came back the next day. She came back with my blind rehab outpatient specialist, my bros, as I call her. And I'm like, what is she doing here? I don't want to do this. And he's like, well, she wants to work with you on Braille. Y'all going to learn together. And we did, Monday through Friday. Sometimes on Saturday we'd learn Braille, we'd laugh, we'd joke, have a good time. And I realized right before I left Richmond, Virginia at the VA, that a week before, she ended up having a miscarriage. And here I am going through my stuff. Here she is going through her stuff. But for that hour each day, all that was removed. We were having a good time. And I was in Chicago at O'Hare Airport a few years ago. And as I got off the bus, the driver was whatever you do in life, just be kind, respectful, and caring on others. Because you never know what they're dealing with. I had that flashback to 2007 when I was in Richmond, Virginia. I didn't know what she was dealing with. But you know what? When she came in my hospital room every day and we learned Braille, we joked. You know, we had a good time. And that's what it all is about. You don't know what other people are going through, but make sure that you're there for them. You're giving them your ears. You're providing them with wisdom and advice. You know, and those lessons in Richmond, Virginia helped me get used to the next step, which is now San Antonio, where I'm going to learn how to walk now. Because when I realized that I wanted to re-enlist in the Marine Corps, here's what I was focusing on. First, I need to get stronger. Next, I need to get prosthetics. I need to learn how to walk. And then the vision. And then I'll put in my re-enlistment package. So I got to San Antonio, and within 4 weeks, I stood with my prosthetic legs for the first time. But I learned there that, you know, the best medicine for anything in life is to learn to laugh at things. And again, I'm a Marine. I'm a smart aleck. And I'm not afraid to say things and joke around with people. So I would go into therapy. I'd get balls thrown at me. I would say something to a therapist and I'd get tackled on a mat. You know, we were in a pool one time and I was swimming and the alarm went off. And I was done swimming, I was in the shower and the alarm went off. And I was like, oh crap, like I'm here by myself, how am I gonna get out? So here I am, just rolling out with a towel over my lap. All these people outside, they're like, oh my gosh. I'm like, yeah, you have a big old smile on my face, you know, it's just learning to love life and just smile a little bit. But you know, I'd go to therapy every day, and I'd always go in there, smile on my face, I'd joke around, I'd be in my wheelchair, I'd go to the mat, I'd go over there, put my legs on, I would, you know, and I'd stand up and I'd walk out. A physical therapist stopped me one day and says, Matt, you don't see this, but every day when you come into therapy, you're positive, you're motivated, you do what you're told to do, and you walk out of here. And there's other amputees that are laying on their floor, doing their core exercises, probably trying to figure out their own life and what's next. They see this blind guy with no legs, you know, doing it. It gives them hope and encouragement that they can do it as well. That lead by example. You know, and I was learning how to walk one day, and it's funny because you look at two prosthetic legs and it's like, man, it can't be that hard. I mean, it's just, but it was. And it's even harder when you can't see it. And I learned that as I bounced off the left wall onto the right wall, trip over my own feet, and frustrated because I didn't want to fall. And my physical therapist, who's a hero of mine, stopped me and said, Matt, whatever you do, just put one foot in front of the next and walk. Just walk. I'll never let you fall. Confidence and encouragement just to put one foot in front of the next. And you know, you think about that, just walk mentality. Think about when you face those adversities, you know. I do a lot of Spartan races. You know, you realize that, man, you go through a 6-foot wall, you could lay down and quit. You can find the easy way around it, or you know what, you can go right over that wall. And you're gonna come to another, you know, clear path. You're gonna come to a bigger wall. You know, sometimes you just gotta put one foot in front of the next and just go for it. You know, they always told us when we were at boot camp, the quickest way off Parris Island is to graduate. And I've learned the quickest way to anything is to put one foot in front of the next and just go. Just keep walking. And you know, I realized in life that, you know, I don't know what my next step is. I almost lost my life on one wrong step. I run into walls. I step off curves. You know, I trip and fall. But I'm always moving forward. You know, and you know, each step for me is like each day. It's not a guarantee, but it's a blessing that I can take that next step. I'm not guaranteed tomorrow or next week, but we got to live every minute today in this moment as it's our last. You know, I was blessed to be given a second chance on life, and I'm going to take every advantage of it. You know, and you know, learning how to walk was tough at first, but I got used to it. It's like putting shoes on every morning. And then I realized that, you know what? Okay, I figured out the prosthetics. Next, let's figure out the whole vision line stuff here. And I don't know. Do you know they have blind rehab schools? I didn't know that either until I went there. But you know, in Chicago at the VA, I want to say there's 14 blind rehab centers, and I learned everything from independent mobility to living on my own, Braille, computers, phones, everything you could think of, even shopping on my own. You know, they have a makeshift apartment that you live in, and you got to pay the bills. And you know, one of our last tasks is in Chicago. I was there in June through December. We had to go from the blind rehab center to take the train to the subway to downtown, walk a block, and come back on our own. Like, our mobility therapist is with us the whole time, but he's not there to instruct us. This is in December. I'm top heavy. Like, now I know why they call it the Windy City. But, you know, and you know, I always joke with people because I love carpentry, I love woodworking, and I was going to be there for a long time. It's like, what do you want to do? Like, let's build a birdhouse. And I don't know about you, man, when I had vision, those table saws were intimidating. Try making a cut with no vision. Thankfully, I didn't leave the blind rehab center as a triple amputee, though. But you know what? I graduated from the blind rehab center. I got my certificate, so I guess officially I was blind. I don't know. But you know, through it all, though, it's like just learning to laugh and enjoy every minute of it. And you know, I went out and, you know, a few months later, you know, I do a lot of things because I made a promise to myself when I first got hurt that I want to live a normal life. Everything you do, I can do. I might do it differently, but I'm going to get it done. So March of 2008, they were going to go to the Baton Death March, which is a, you know, full marathon or a 14-mile walk in the desert in New Mexico to pay respect and remember the survivors and those who gave the ultimate sacrifice in World War II in Baton. And I put my foot in my mouth, and my physical therapist remembered it the next year. He's like, "Oh, you're ready to go do the Baton this year?" I'm like, "Not really," but I ended up going out and doing it. And I looked at my therapist, and I'm like, "You know what? Once I do this, I'm putting in my medical board, and I'm going to re-enlist. There's no much more therapy that I need to learn." I ended up walking 10 miles in 8 hours. 10 miles out of 14. I'm like, man, pretty impressive for somebody who got hurt 2 years ago, but that's the first thing I ever quit on. And people come to me and like, "Oh, you got no leg, blah, blah." I'm not a person of excuses. Like, those last 4 miles, like, and you know, I quit because my wrist hurt, my lower back hurt, all these little things. Like, I could have easily pushed through that. And that taught me that, you know, no matter what, as I mentioned earlier, invest. When I'm going to put my mind to something, I'm going to make sure that this, my body, my prosthetics, my legs, everything is ready to go in my mind. And one of the guys that was working the event walked up to me, he was like, 10 miles, that's it? Like, you trying to do this blind with no legs. I was like, he just turned around and walked away. But you know what, I put my medical board in, and by August it come back. I could either get out of the Marines, I could get rated again, which I was 100%. I mean, can't go higher unless the congressman knows some people up there. Or I could submit my EPOD, which was extended permanent limited duty. And by March 23rd of 2010, I got the call that my re-enlistment got approved. I was the first blind LVT in the history of the Marine Corps to do that. And on April 7, 2010, I sworn in to be a Marine again. But then there was like, "Matt, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "I want to go to North Carolina, to Wounded Warrior Battalion, because I want to be where there's more wounded, and I could really, you know, make a difference in these guys' life, and girls' life." And so they sent me to North Carolina. And I always share this story because I think it's funny, because people always ask me how I met my wife. And I've never seen my wife before. I met my wife in 2010. Actually, when I met my wife was 2 days after I moved to North Carolina. And here I am as a guy, a Marine, ready to move to a new city. And I run right into my wife. But you know what? It's always showed to people. They ask me, it's like, "How'd you meet your wife?" I was like, "It's love at first sight." And you know, I re-enlisted April 7th. And just 2 weeks ago on April 7th, my wife and I, you know, celebrated 10 years of marriage. You know, and she treated me the same as those corpsmen, those nurses, and those doctors and those therapists treated me. She knew what I had in me, that I had a fight in me, that I didn't quit on things. And you know, I was blessed to find her. Because you know, you don't know where the next day is going to lead. You don't know how life is going to, you know, what decision could lead to. Like, I was living a good life, but I had a lot of dark moments. You know, it is tough waking up every day and not be able to see. Waking up even earlier to put on legs and to get dressed. You know, to drop something on the floor and like crawl around the floor and try to figure out where it is. Like, it sucks. Like, I hate it sometimes. But I realize there's so many good people in my life that when I'm struggling, when I have those bad days, all I do is just pick up my phone. All I have to do is just talk to my wife. I have a beautiful 10-year-old little girl. People ask me, when I'm in those dark situations, what do? I tell them I either stand up and walk to her room, or I get my wheelchair and roll in her room. I'll get in her floor and play Barbies with her. It puts my mind in the right spot because I don't want her or any of my kids to ever grow up without me in their life. I put her on the bus every morning, I take her off the bus every afternoon, I tuck her in every night. It's the 3 best parts of my day. That's my life. And she's getting to the point now where, she's starting to understand more about my life. She asked me one time, I was giving her a bath, she said, "Daddy, what happened to your eyes?" And all my wife wanted from her when she was born is my blue eyes. And she had my blue eyes. And I told her, you know what? You have my eyes. You have my vision. I see my world through you now. And she don't get it yet, but she will. I spoke at an event 2 months ago, and this is the first time that she truly heard me speak. She heard me talk about wanting to give up on life, wanting to take my own life, and wanting to quit everything. As I said that, and as I said this, she was in tears, cuddled up with my wife. And as I sat down, she said, "Dad, you made the right decision." Like, why is that? She's like, "Not taking your life." I'm like, "I did." And then when I got home, we're sitting there at the counter at 10 o'clock at night. She says, "Daddy, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to Google on how you can have vision so you can see my beautiful face." That's why I live every day. People ask me, "Would you go back and do it again?" And I would. Because that IED took so much of me, but it gave me so much more. It taught me so many lessons in life. It taught me how to push through adversity, push through pain, push through those tough moments. What I realized? When I wake up every day, I go to bed every night and I pray. I want to see my wife. I want to see my kids. I want to see all the beautiful blessings and surroundings in my life. And I think about that day all the time. Because again, I wake up and I don't see nothing. But the fight in me and the Marine in me is never going to let that insurgent push that button, defeat me. And I got a strong fire team of Marines in my household, and in my phone, and in my life that will help me get through all of this. I spoke about this earlier, and I'll end with this one here. I think the greatest thing of being in the military is, it's just the brotherhood and the camaraderie. I realized in 2012 when I took off my uniform for the last time, I knew that being a Marine was, it's 7 years. I tell you what, I met some of the greatest people, and I've done some of the greatest things. But the one thing about being a Marine is you're always a Marine. And I think for all veterans, no matter where you live, no matter who you serve with, the way you act and everything you learn from leadership in the military carries over to your life outside the military. In your communities, be that stand-up citizen. Look out for others. Be that brother's keeper. Have your brother's six. It's all out there. And you know what? Unfortunately, before the pandemic and even more through the pandemic, I'm sure the congressman knows, the military is fighting a suicide. And you know what? You could throw so much money in DC, you could throw so much money at mental health, but what really helps is you picking up your phone and calling your battle buddy to check in on them as much as possible. If they're struggling, find them help. I've lost so many friends to suicide. And it's the worst feeling in the world for you go over there, you fight like a hero in Iraq and Afghanistan, you come back, you can't fight those demons no more. And I've learned through all of this that you're not going to be able to do anything alone, but you can do it together. Team, together, everyone achieves more. Unfortunately, those suicide numbers aren't going to be lowered overnight, but if we all work together and we all focus on each other and our phones and those who we have in our phones, then that number can lower. But we just got to work together. And as veterans, we're the ones who know each other. We're the ones who can speak to each other. And if you're a veteran and you know another veteran who is struggling, who's having a bad day, sit there with them until he gets help. Because I tell you what, one thing that helped me through this pandemic is picking up my phone, calling people I haven't talked to in years. To talk to those, to hear about their families, to be with them. That's what it's all about.